Hello guys, it's Squiggle here, and welcome to my video on rogues in Battle for Azeroth. Now, obviously, there's a lot here that's subject to change. However, there have been some pretty big changes that Blizzard has announced. For example, we're going to be seeing how haste scales differently with rogues as a whole, and how our abilities are going to be different without the artifact traits. Now, firstly, I'm going to say that Blizzard are trying to keep a few things that we've had in the artifact talent tree. Now, obviously, a lot of classes can't really function properly without these, and people would think that the spec was missing something if it didn't have these. So instead of leaving us short-handed, they've either given us the option to run these as talents, integrated them into the classes, or given us even more interesting things to think about. So without further ado, I'll go through all of the changes that we are seeing currently. So starting off with the Assassination Rogue, we can see that the Master Assassin from the shoulders is actually getting integrated into our talent tree. Now, I think this is a fantastic change because when it comes to Legion, we were looking at so many different pieces of RNG. You had your RNG when leveling, you had your RNG when you were getting your legendaries, you had your RNG when it came to procs, you had just way too much RNG. They even added Concordance and they added the Netherlight Crucible. Now, these things meant that there was so much variance on the gear, and as it went along, you could get really lucky or really bad luck. So things like these, which give you 50% extra critical strike chance, not only mean that you already have to get a lot of crit on your build, but it allows you to guarantee that you're having a lot of crit in your opener, which is perfect for assassination because it allows you to generate a specific amount of combo points every single pull. For the second tier, we are going to see that Prey on the Weak, Iron Wire. For the level 75 talents, not much is going to change here for the PvE. We're going to be seeing these things that affect PvP a little bit. We're going to be seeing the removal of Thuggy, which is actually a set and forget in PvE, because if something dies, then you get to garrote more than one target. Now, all this is going to mean is you can pick one of the three that you want, and in PvE, you're probably not going to change it that much. Next up, we can see that Alacrity is being changed to Venom Rush. Now, I think this is a pretty good change as well, because the only time that we saw Alacrity was in Nighthold on the Gul'dan fight, so that you could change out your Agonizing Poison with Deadly Poison, and still keep enough damage to kill the ads properly when you're meant to. Now, obviously, Toxic Blade is probably going to be the best pure single target, gives a lot of burst. However, with the changes to bleeds that I'll get on after, Venom Rush and Exsanguinate may even become slightly better, only time will tell. However, I will say that Toxic Blade and Exsanguinate should be slightly better single target because Venom Rush is completely passive. Now for level 100 talents, we're going to see that Venom Rush has been taken out. Obviously, it's been moved to the level 90 talents, and it's been replaced for Poison Bomb and Crimson Tempest. Now, Death from Above was never used for assassination, and this just gets swapped over as well. Now, we're going to quickly read over the Poison Bomb. I personally think that this is something that needs to be left behind, or it needs to be normalized quite a bit. For example, on live, I think it's between 2 and 3% proc chance per combo point, and this can mean huge variance when it comes to DPS. I think this thing should be probably 8 to 10% per combo point, just so you don't have these ridiculous pulls every time. Of course, the damage should be reduced to go along with this. And for Mark for Death, I think this should be the single target go-to, and might even be pretty useful in some fights where targets are dying every once in a while. And of course for Crimson Tempest, this is going to be the replacement to your Envenom and Poison Bomb single target if you want to take it. Now, I think that this is a welcome change. Assassination has been pretty weak AoE unless you have the Poison Bomb procs. This is why I think that they need to leave this behind. I just don't think it's very fun in the way that it can completely destroy a pool, or, oh, look at that, I didn't play any better, but I got poison bomb procs, good for me. So if they screw up the spec and make this the set and forget talent, I'm probably not going to be playing much Assassination. Now, onto the second one, and probably one of my most favorite specs in the game. It's the Outlaw Rogue. Now, Outlaw has had a bit of a wonky journey throughout the whole of Legion. It started off as our best spec for a few weeks due to multiple reasons, as well as being the best AoE spec of the three at the start. And since then, it's sort of fallen off. Like, Assassination and Subtlety Rogue got changed quite a bit. The changes to Outlaw Rogue didn't really fix many problems, and right now I'd say it is pretty good if you have a very strong Night Blooming front and if you get really good roll procs on your tier 21 4 set. So one of the changes that I really do like about the Outlaw Rogue is that Grappling Hook is becoming baseline, and for the level 30 talent, all that's changing is that it's giving us the ability to use this on a lower cooldown. So pretty much nothing is changing here. However, if you take acrobatic strikes or hit and run, you aren't losing anything apart from a little bit of CDR. Now, for the level 75 talents, all that we're going to see is that instead of Parley, there is going to be Blinding Powder, which basically uses our blind on a lower cooldown and increases its range by 15 yards. Now, this is a pretty cool talent. It just allows you to do some more stuff in Mythic Plus with your CCs. You might even find some good raid applications for it, where you would normally be using a Monk's Paralysis. Lastly, we are going to see that Death from Above is being replaced with Loaded Dice, which is part of the Dreadblades. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this much, but Loaded Dice basically allows you to guarantee a 2+ roll when you are running the roller dice and if you use your Adrenaline Rush. Now, this is something that needs to stay in BFA if Outlaw is to roll the bones consistently. Now, otherwise, it would just mean that Slice and Dice is the best talent overall, which is what we are currently seeing. And of course, there's a bit of a purple elephant in the room. The Dreadblades, Curse of the Dreadblades, the artifact ability is being removed, and this will make our opener slightly boring compared to the way it is on live. And of course, for the Subtlety Rogue. Now, honestly, I think this is an area that really doesn't need to get looked at too much, apart from maybe DFA, Death from Above, being a really good talent to take single target and AoE. This is the sort of thing where in TOS, when you didn't want to be using this ability, you simply change over to Assassination. It wasn't really worth going Mark for Death over the Assassination at the time. So maybe making this a pure AoE talent or just a risky AoE talent might be the best way to go. This change, the level 75 talent, really doesn't mean much for us, just means that a cheap shot is free after you enter Stealth or Shadow Dance. Like, that's pretty cool for Mythic Plus. I mean, you can use your Shadow Dance, get like a combo off, and then, cheap shot straight after you're out of your windows. Yeah, it's alright. We'll go with that. It's alright. Now, the next thing that I wanted to go over is actually a pretty big overhaul for all of the classes in World of Warcraft. Now, obviously, with the Titan forging system, it's going to be quite ridiculous if someone gets, say, a 50 item level upgrade on one of their weapons as soon as the patch comes out. Now, as you guys may be aware, weapons used to scale pretty good before Legion. So if you are something like an arms warrior and you got like a really huge weapon, it would make the hugest difference to your damage, like even more than any trinket could possibly give you. So we're going to be seeing that Blizzard is using attack power for all of the melee classes at the very least. Now, these things you can probably go through in your own time. There's no point me like saying all these silly percentages, like it really doesn't mean much for at least another couple of months. Just look and see how this tuning is coming every once in a while, and maybe if you see that some numbers are a little bit high and they don't get changed, maybe these classes are going to have some pretty good scaling, who knows. And of course, on to the next exciting change. Now, they are going to be changing the way that dots work for a lot of classes. For example, the bleeds on warriors and the bleeds on rogues. Now, the assassination rogue and the subtlety rogue, of course, actually gain nothing from haste. Like, haste is ridiculously low on any single sim you can think about for both of these specs. Now, this, in my opinion, is a pretty welcome change, especially when it comes to Titan forging. Now, I don't know if you guys have had this either, but every single time I go into my cache after I've done a 15, oh look, there's a 980 ring. Oh, it's got 3k haste and it's completely useless for me. And just having something that has one stat that's about 3 times higher than your lowest stat, I think that that's something that's really furious when it comes to the RNG game. And I really like them bringing up certain stats for the assassination rogue, and maybe we'll see this change with the sub rogue as well, just to make sure that haste isn't the worst thing ever. Now, just an explanation of how this works. Basically, the damage per tick does not change, and it scales with haste. For example, if you have one thing on live that does 1k damage, if you have a certain amount of haste, it can do 2k damage over the same time frame, in theory. So this scaling probably isn't going to be that ridiculous that haste is like double everything else, but it should be able to bring the haste in line with the other stats, which is a thumbs up from me. All in all, I'd say that I like probably 80% of the changes of the Rogue class. There's some things that still do need to be ironed out, and at the end of the day, if there's less RNG in the game, or the RNG numbers are a little bit higher, then I'm gonna be happy. For example, I would really like it if Poison Bomb was at an 8% and the damage was halved. 8% per combo point, that is. Now, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on this so far. Now, remember that these are super early days, so I think the main things that we're looking at today are the weapon damage changes and the haste bleed changes, which are both thumbs up from me, so this has been a really good week for me looking at the changes so far. Thanks, guys. Here's a little bit of food for thought, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching, and like down below. Peace.